Personally visited every county in New York State, listening to people's concerns. The Sharpe Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharpe Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharpe Way Radio.
Oh, yes, it is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, the voice of liberty. Also WLEA, WCKR, Hornell, New York. So happy to have you with me this afternoon. I want, if I could, to think about several years ago, Governor Andrew Cuomo. Why in the world would I bring him up? There's the reason why I would bring him up. As many of you know, if you've been following me, you know I am not a fan of Mr. Andrew Cuomo. Was not a fan then. I believed then and now that he was responsible for the deaths of those elderly that he put in the facilities. I believed, and still do, that he was responsible for the destruction of our economy during the lockdowns. I blamed him for a lot, and still do, to be clear, and still do. And when he was accused, if you remember, of grabbing butts and the things he did, you might think, well, I jumped up and down and said, yes, awesome, go get him. I didn't. If you were watching then or listening to me then, I was here on this radio station. And I said, no, not yet. He deserves due process. I said he deserves due process even for a man who I despised. Even for a man who I believed was guilty of many horrible things. He still deserves due process. And I kept my mouth shut, even when many of you wanted me to just hammer him, until Letitia James, she was the AG then, did her investigation. Then I said something. I wanted him to get due process like everybody else. No difference. Why do I bring that up? Because if you are in New York, for sure, and outside of New York, you probably still heard it. There was a terrible death of an inmate in Marcy Prison in New York State. It's a prison outside of Utica, maybe between like Utica and Rome, in that area up there in Oneida, for those who don't know where it is. And there was, without question, video of many corrections officers physically beating him up, holding him down, fighting, all those things. And the answer from our governor was immediately, fire them all. Then we go, well, Larry, you don't get it. These corrections officers did horrible stuff and beat this guy up. Looks like you're right. And they still deserve due process. It doesn't change. Whether you're the governor of the state, a corrections officer, or some dude on the street, it does not matter. You deserve due process. And the fact that our governor would just fire them is unacceptable. Now, I'm not saying they weren't bad guys. They might be. And there is some evidence that a couple of them are bad guys. Okay. Give them due process. Punish them. No issue. No concern. I'm not defending any of them except for one thing. Every one of them deserves due process. Because just because you were there doesn't mean you were guilty. You might be. Doesn't mean they are. And my problem with this is twofold. One of the problems I have is that the assumption by our governor is that the COs, corrections officers, that the COs are by default evil and bad, To be clear, some of them may be, but by default they are. And by default, the prisoner is a saint. Okay, I guess in theory he could be. I mean, this guy isn't, but in theory he could be. I get it. But no matter what, due process. That is my issue. And this is just making things worse. Here is the second part that bothers me is that her solutions don't solve anything. Surprise! Oh, I'm so surprised that what our governor, Her Majesty, Queen Kathy, first of her name, destroyer of the middle class, banisher of conservatives, and crusher of corrections officers, for sure, don't solve anything. What is her answer? She has an answer because she's going to fix things now, which I think you might say to yourself, well, I'm glad she's going to fix things. She's now figured this out. So now we're going to fix things. No. This was a problem back in 2018 when she was lieutenant governor. How do I know this? Because I ran in 2018. And one of my issues was prison reform. And I had the answers. Of course, Larry, you have the answers. Because I have the answers for everything. Duh. But I had actual answers. This was a problem 6 years ago. And for those of you who don't know, the corrections officers went 3 years without a contract. 3 years. No contract. They were taking zeros for 3 years. They were disrespected for 3 years. And you might go, well, Larry, why does that matter? Because that's the environment they were in for 3 years. What kind of environment do you create? And what do you hear me say every freaking week? Bad environment, bad system, bad outcomes. That's how it works. Can this ever be perfect? No. Can it be better? Of course. And it should be. Her answer, of course, is, which I love, of course, is, we're going to throw more money at it. Because what else would she do? So she's going to now spend an extra $400 million on more body cameras. Shocker. She is now going to make sure that she gives her vendors another $400 million of taxpayer dollars. That's piece number one. Well done. Second piece, she's going to have more investigative staff. More jobs for her friends. Well done. More jobs. So more people who will now look over and check things out. What else will she do? National experts are going to come in because that'll work. They might go, Larry, what do you mean? Isn't that a good idea? Bring in national experts? In theory, that would be true. However, we've been doing that for 10 or 20 years. That was one of my issues. The people that they never talk to are the actual correction officers. Never. They always bring in experts. Why? Because the assumption is the correction officer is evil by default. So don't talk to them because they're evil. And then how do I give my friends jobs, my consultants jobs, if I don't bring my friend consultants in? So they do that, and they're going to review, which is, I'm not joking, hundreds of thousands, if not seven figures of dollars to review and to give some documents that'll say how to make things better. That won't make anything better, but they'll give them that, and our friends will get that money. What else are we going to do? We're going to expand the whistleblower hotline because that'll work. We're going to give $2 million to the, I think it's called the Correctional Association of New York. If I'm not mistaken, that's the name of it. The Correctional Association of New York. That sounds amazing. It's a government agency. That's what it is. It's a government agency. They decided, let's make another government agency. Let's give them more money. Then they're going to make more rules for the officers of the day to be contacted, communicate with the officers of the day. The officer of the day is the officer who's in charge of the prison in a given day, called the OOD, or the officer of the day. Okay, great. And then more communication with inmates. Okay, this sounds okay, but here's the problem. What we don't get. Maybe that guy, Robert Brooks, was a bad guy. Sounds bad from what I hear, but you never know. Due process. Supposedly, he stabbed his girlfriend, and that's why, twice in the neck. And supposedly she was pregnant, was the story. I don't know if that's true. Again, we need investigation. So he stabbed her in the back and the neck. My assumption is trying to kill her, but he did not get convicted of attempted murder. He got convicted of first-degree assault, 12 years. And maybe those cops are bad. Maybe those COs are bad. 3 of them have a past of violence. So maybe they're bad. Possibly. But who are they not talking to? The 2 most important groups. Family members and corrections officers. Because here's the problem of knowing who the bad guys are. Here's what I know about prison. Every prison. There are 3 types of people in those prisons. Those who are horrible human beings who should never get out. That's one chunk. There's a second chunk. Those who should do their time and get a second chance at life. Third type. Those who shouldn't be there at all. That's true. Those 3 types are in every prison. The problem is, which ones are which? How do I know? As a governor, I don't know. Here's what we know from stats. About 20% of the prison population is sociopathic, give or take. So that's a problem. And in most states, for sure New York State, the largest mental health facilities in the states are their prisons and jail system. The largest one in New York State is Rikers Island Jail here in New York City. So I know these things to be true. So I can try to fix them if I want to, or I can just use punishment, use a stick and no carrot, and just punish COs even more. Not talk to them or their families. Families of the inmates. Don't talk to them. And don't solve anything. We've chosen to do that. We're just going to punish more people, fix nothing, give out more money, virtue signal, and pretend like we care. Meanwhile, the COs suffer, the prisoners suffer, and the families of the prisoners suffer. That does not sound good at all. But I'm going to give you some answers. I promise. I will. Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, the voice of liberty. 585-346-3000 is the number to call me. I will have your chat. I will have those answers. And I will have your calls after the break.
Tends to be a little more conservative in upstate New York, and I think they don't know me as well.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest opening in your defenses to drain your accounts and steal sensitive data. Your finances and your customers' trust are on the line. Call the experts at Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call today. 585-999-TECH.
Dion, you see this most likable spokesperson poll?
Really? I might know somebody. Oh, we're looking forward to this today, aren't we?
Seriously, guys. We're a team. We're not competing against each other.
Ooh, who's a good spokesperson?
2 puppies? I did not expect that from you.
Ooh, one of them's for you. Oh, ooh, who's a good spokesperson? Yes, go Team West Her. Oh.
Welcome to West Her, New York.
Hi, my name is Evan Spindleman, founder and owner of Floodbroker. Flood insurance premiums are skyrocketing, and if you have to have flood insurance coverage to secure your
How
mortgage,
fast I
you
was
owe it to
changing.
yourself
They
to
started
call me
doing
to
it
see how I
themselves.
can save you money on your flood insurance premium. The insurance programs I use are bank
probably
accepted
heard that.
and will satisfy your
Ancient
loan
Japanese skin
requirements.
secret
Please
banned
give
by
me a call at
dermatologists. This remarkable technique, known in Asia
585-736-4366
as
today to get a free no obligation quote. That's 585-736-4366. Call today.
Sharpe Radio on the WYSL stations.
COVID did not get into the nursing homes by people coming from hospitals. COVID got into the nursing homes by staff walking into the nursing home.
See that? It's always the staff's fault. Yes, Governor Cuomo, our previous king Cuomo the second of his name, destroyer of, I should say, grabber of butts. How about that? Grabber of butts, killer of grandma and grandpa. How about that? That's his. Yes, Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Radio, the voice of liberty.
Dean.
585-346-3000 is the number. I do want to grab a quick comment if I could. Mike Voss says, Governor Hochul fired them to distract from her tone-deaf lie about the subway safety after the woman was burned. Hochul's trying to win back progressive support by extreme punishment of law enforcement. Yes, I think you're right in the money there. I think Hochul is trying to do what she does. She does several things well. The first thing she does well is hand out jobs and money. Very good at that. And the second thing she does well is she virtue signals well. And this is exactly what you're saying. It's virtual signaling to her progressive base. Very good to be against law enforcement. They will like that. Valid point. Let me grab a call if I could. I'm going to grab Dean. Dean, how are you?
I'm doing good, Larry. You know, I've thought about this for a long time, like when we get incarcerated. And I was wondering what you thought about. Like, I really think, like, I mean, incarceration is supposed to be like we re-educate somebody, right? We try to make them better.
It's supposed to be.
Can we not give a college education? I mean, it doesn't have to be the very best college education, but can we not give a college education to people that are in prison? Like, we actually give them the opportunity to better themselves. I just think this would be, this is the meaning of rehabilitating somebody, right? Giving them the opportunity to have an education. Like, what do you think about a college education for people that go into prison?
So in 2018, I had an entire prison reform platform. Part of that was the idea of creating what I call community-based situations to where you are able to fix people based upon a specific community. One of those could be, say, veterans, could be drug dealers, could be violent people, could be pregnant moms, whatever the case may be. You create communities. Within those community centers and groups, they go off and they get selected by two groups of people: corrections officers and inmate families. Those two people who select the people to go into these groups. In these groups, you then help them to get out. What does that mean? That might mean education, Dean, but that also might mean a trade. That might mean basic financial literacy, but I don't decide that as the governor or even as the warden or superintendent. The communities decide what they require. Now, the corrections officers help to run it and select people. What does that mean? Now, corrections officers have a carrot to give to people, not just a stick. Now, where did I get this idea from? There was a time when they were trying to put iPads into prisons. And a lot of people said, that's a terrible idea. Why are you rewarding these prisoners? And a lot of CEOs said, no. I want them. People said, why? I want a carrot to give, not just a stick. CEOs would say things literally like, don't stab anybody, and I'll give you an iPad. And outside of prison, you might go, that's crazy. In a prison, some CEOs said, no, I would love that, because they're not afraid of anything. A lot of the prisons are there and they're never going to get out. And if they get out, they're going right back in. They don't care. So the stick doesn't work.
Yeah, recidivism.
Yes, that doesn't work. So they said, no, give me a carrot. Now, here's what got screwed up, which is what I was going to talk about earlier. Instead of, by the way, these iPads were free. They were given by a community group. So the state didn't pay for them, which is why I was okay with it. The problem is they didn't say, okay, hey, prison X, prison Y, prison Z, tell me how your prison works, and then you can decide how to hand out these iPads. Should they be given individually? Should they only be used in the common room? Should they be taken back? How should they be used? Should they be given in, solitary confinement? What's the reason? They didn't do that. They used outside people to come in and give it in, and it failed.
I mean, what one could imagine that the iPad has a course curriculum on it, right? Because you want people that come out of that prison to be better people, to be ready for the world, to be more educated, to feel more love, right? All those things. People land in that place for many different reasons.
There's a secondary piece here. You're right, but that's for about 80% of the prison population, give or take. I don't know the actual answer on what it is, but about that. Generally speaking, there's a secondary piece, which about 20% of the prison population is probably sociopathic and can never be successful in life at all. And that sounds horrible, but a lot of that is because of our war on drugs and our war on poverty. Yeah. We've removed their family, we've raised them in violence, and they have no chance. So what do we do with them?
They're screwed. We don't have a solution for them. Yeah.
Well, we do. Well, we can, I should say. And that is one.
Another call on hold.
And then to protect the rest of the prisoners from them. And very often, stick doesn't work. So we require a carrot so that they don't harm others and themselves. Now that, again, could be things like iPads and such. But I got to go back to my first point.
Right.
How do I know what's going to work and who is who? Two types of people, COs and family members of those inmates. And why do I keep bringing that up? Because if you've had a felon in your life, I've had many. If you've had felons in your life, when you have a horrible felon in your life, you actually don't want them to come back out. And that may sound horrible, but I'm being very forward because that felon comes out, infects everyone around you, and destroys people if they are part of that 20%. And families often know that.
But the larger percentage of people can have an education, can learn something while they're spending that time in prison, not just sitting there doing menial labor or something like that, right?
Absolutely true. And let me keep moving on to this. I based this idea off of a thing called the Humvee program out of Massachusetts. That was specifically for veterans, but it can work for any type of community. The recidivism rate out of that prison at the time was over 80%. From that program, less than 5%. To your point, Dean, if you train people, it can work. There's a second stat that matters.
You've got to give them hope.
Yes.
They fuck some shit up, right? They fuck some shit up, and we want to help them.
Guys, this is radio. Don't your language, your radio. Watch your language.
He's gone.
Yes, sorry, Dean. Had to dump you for that. This is regular radio. No F-bombs, no S-bombs. The last piece I'll bring up here, if I could. 5 years is the magic number. If a felon gets out and works for 5 years straight, they are less likely to commit another crime than people who've never been convicted. That is how important that is. So let me get another call if I can. Hello, how are you?
It's Gene.
Hey, Gene.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I think. Yeah, good. I'm doing great, and I hope you are too.
What's going on?
Yeah, the things that you were talking about, where you need to ask the people involved.
Yes.
That's like, I don't know. Yeah, you know me. I
ask her to hang on for the break.
And I sew, and so one of my fellow dancers.
I'm so sorry. I'm up against a hard break. Can you hold on until after the break?
Sure.
Great, excellent, yes. Guys, I'm sorry about that. I got a hard break. I will come back with Gene, plus more talk and your chat, absolutely. Larry Sharpe here, Sharpe Radio, the voice of Liberty Network. 585-346-3000 is the number. Back with more calls, more chat, and more answers after the break.
Soros-free talk radio.
WYSL.
Avon, Rochester. WLEA WCKR FM Cornell.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. We've got some light and isolated rain showers on the way. Those will last through the night, so make sure you bring your rain jacket to any New Year's celebrations. Tomorrow, you're going to see that rain turn to some light, wet snow. Not expecting much in terms of accumulation, a few tenths of an inch at the very worst. And then Thursday morning, there's a chance for some lake effect snow that will eventually move to the east. This is meteorologist Nate Morris for the Voice of Liberty.
Canisteo Valley Update.
Bath Village Police Chief Colin Taft announced last night he's put in his resignation, and that resignation has gone into effect today. Taft says in his last 4 years, which has been spent as the police chief there, Bath Police have protected the public responsibly, upgraded security, and practiced principled policing. Taft concluded his resignation statement by saying that it's been an honor to serve the people of Bath for over 2 decades. In other news, one of the Steuben County congressmen is Congressman Nick Langworthy. He says he's joined the Make America Healthy Again House Caucus. That's the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. movement to make food safer and provide more access to health care. Langworthy says he's proud to join this effort to work with the Trump administration to make health a priority for all Americans. I'm Brian O'Neill for the Voice of Liberty.
Bob Savage here for Aaron Moore. As you feel those dropping temps, I invite you to do what we do here at WYSL. Slash your heating costs this season with Aaron Moore infrared zone heaters. They can save you big compared to just using your furnace. It's how we stay comfy here at Radio Ranch. Aaron Moore heats healthier. No burning of oxygen and particulates to dry out your nose and skin. You get even quiet heat that fills rooms with warmth, not dust and blower noise. Aaron Moore heaters are completely safe. No hot surfaces or heating elements to pose shock or fire hazards, plus complete safety for children and pets. For a limited time, save $30 on either size Aaron Moore, and either the Comfort Deluxe size or the Compact Comfort Buddy for smaller areas. Specify discount code WYSL in your shopping cart. Free shipping in the continental U.S., and you'll never have to replace any bulbs because of Aaron Moore copper PTC technology. Maintenance-free Aaron Moore infrared zone heaters are the way to really save on heating bills. Call 800-707-8725 or visit air-more.com.
Most banks offer you a choice. Or maybe it would be better to say they demand a choice. Technology so you can bank like you want to, or relationships so you can get advice when you need it. But when you choose to bank with Tompkins, you can have it all. Powerful technology and the power of a face-to-face talk about your future. Because both are part of the best banking relationship you'll ever have. Tompkins, your bank of choice. Open an account today at tompkinsbank.com.
HFO is the place to go where prices are low and comfortable. Come to the store with your family for the famous low price guarantee.
Hi, I'm Sean.
And this is Shirley.
From all of us at the Hornell Furniture Outlet, we'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
Oh, Hornell Furniture Outlet, HFO.
Keep your vehicle in tip-top shape. For quality, affordable vehicle service, rely on Rock Auto Service, 1132 Westridge Road. Rock Auto has what your car, truck, or SUV needs for winter. Brakes, batteries, your radiator and cooling system, alignments, exhaust, and tires. Check their Google reviews as one of Rochester's best for customer satisfaction. Owner and U.S. Army veteran Dave Ferris welcomes military service personnel and veterans. Rock Auto Service, 1132 Westridge Road, just east of Mount Read, 434-5010.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery in Avon.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great. We will reach greatness. when every American is fully engaged.
It is so funny going back and seeing how bad he was. And I still thought he should get due process. Absolutely. Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Radio, the voice of liberty. 585-346-3000 is the number. And I hope I still have Jean here. I had to hold her on. Jean, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you for holding on.
Good,
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, you were talking about asking the right people to
yes,
about the prisons.
About the prisoners.
And it made me think about when I made a skirt for a friend that I met dancing. And she said, "Oh, this is so much better because the last lady, she made it out of something that was too hot to dance in, and it was just awful." And I said, you really don't want somebody that doesn't dance to make your dance wear.
Absolutely. And you might remember this, Jean. When I ran in 2018 and I had this epiphany on how to fix it, how did I get it? I literally visit prisons. Now, to be clear, I have a very odd outlook here because I have both sides of this. My father was a corrections officer at Rikers Island, and my mother was a felon and an addict. So I've seen this on both sides. So how do you fix it? You have to talk to both. And I would literally go to prisons. And for those who haven't been to a prison before, they do shift changes. And you see a bunch of corrections officers coming in and coming out. So I would literally just go during a shift change, stand outside, and talk to the COs as they walked outside. Shake their hand, tell them I'm running for governor, what's going on. I had a conversation. I did it with a dozen prisons, more, I don't know, a bunch of times. Also, there's very often some place, either a building or an area, where the family members who are visiting prisoners, where they stay before they go in to visit their prisoners. So I would just go there and talk to the family members, see what's going on. This is where I began to understand what was happening. And if you look at what Hochul's doing, it's just the stick. There's no carrot. Therefore, you cannot change the culture. You can't change the environment. You can't change the system. So this will fail. The problem is, Jean, she doesn't care if it fails. She doesn't care at all.
I think she may want it to fail. Then she can always blame,
I like that.
The federal experts.
Yes. Or she can just keep blaming the corrections officers and keep ignoring the families. She can do that too.
Yeah.
There's a reason why when a judge is handing out your sentence, the judge will often look out and see
two more calls on hold
in the room. And then looking at, are family members there? That tells the judge whether the family wants him out or not. And it often affects sentencing. And you might say that's not fair. It's actually kind of fair. Gene, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. So families do matter. 100%.
Keith.
Let me go to my next call. This is Keith. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, thank you. Your listener should know that the inmate who died at Marcy was from this area, Greece, New York. His family and their supporters last evening were out making their concerns known, and they quoted Frederick Douglass, who said, "Power does not yield without a demand put to it."
Mm-hmm.
And the point on that is that we all understand that if you want to change the culture, this guy who did bad things to get a dozen years, that he deserved to die?
Mm-hmm.
No, he probably didn't. I'm saying it that way. Some are going to say, well, even that's too tough, back to me. But twofold, he was brought in handcuffed. That says to me that he was showing bad behavior. Were the guards even sadistic in dealing with that? Well, let me ask, since I was just calling in as you were stating that your father is in corrections, everyone should know that at the state level, corrections officers have had methods taken away from them that would de-escalate violence. and many corrections officers, and I stand by many, are beat up. There was another caller into this station. He knew of a corrections officer who had been beat up a number of times to the point that he had to retire. And I'm very angry that the Attorney General, Letitia James, she'll come with the footage of the inmate dying, but she was nowhere to be found when that woman was burned to death there in the subway. So Letitia James is a racist herself. She's doing this to make us whites look bad. We understand that the guards, many of them, are of a different race from a majority of the inmates. But in closing, the state has tied corrections collective hands in dealing with these violent inmates, and too many of the officers are beat up and put upon, and no one is talking the other side of that.
So let me touch a couple of those, Keith. The first thing, I know a lot of people just automatically hate corrections officers. I know that. I see it. And you're right. It's not fair. As I always say, I'm not pro law enforcement or anti law enforcement. I say there are people trying to do a job, bad environment, bad system, bad outcomes. You are correct. And we're not trying to fix the system at all. The average lifespan of a corrections officer, life expectancy, is 59 years old. Let me say it again, 59. Every single corrections officer that I've met, and I've now met probably hundreds by now, dozens for sure, maybe hundreds. Every one of them knows somebody who's committed suicide. Every one of them. Not just that. Every one of them knows exactly how much time they have left. Everyone. Ask any corrections officer how much time you have left. He'll tell you 4 years, 3 months, 14 years, 9 months. They all know because the situation is terrible. The situation is bad for them and has been bad. Letitia James at least said she's going to investigate and did immediately decide to hang them. Hochul did. Next piece. They immediately, to your point again, Keith, you are correct. They made it racist. The system might be racist, perhaps. Is it true that maybe those corrections officers are racist? Maybe, we don't know. We haven't investigated. But why did we immediately make it black versus white? Immediately. That was the issue? No. By the way, you might know this. Most people in prison who die, other than natural causes, die from suicide. That's the number one reason, suicide. And you know what the majority race of people who are actually killed in prison are? They're white. In fact, most people who are killed even by corrections officers are white. That's true. Is this one racist? Maybe, but we don't know yet. Why do we assume that? Keith, you are correct. I am bothered by this because making it racist does not help. Unless you're saying the system is racist, and if you are, awesome, show me how it is and let's fix it. I'm open to that idea, but I think you are correct. It doesn't make things better at all, and we should be looking at both sides of this. Family members of the incarcerated and the COs. Thank you for your call, Keith. Let me grab, if I could, Craig. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Larry?
What's going on?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, this stuff rubs me the wrong way. It's not like Kathy didn't know that these were problems. It's not like Cuomo didn't know these were problems. And
Yes.
in fact, so you talk about going to visit the prisons. I remember the escape at Dannemora. Those two guys got out and ran around and terrorized North Country. It was because the state decided they couldn't afford to run the HVAC system in the prison, and those guys escaped through the steam pipe. And it was because the state was trying to save money that those guys escaped. They kept steam in the pipe on purpose so people couldn't get out of the prison. They took the steam away.
Yes.
The state caused the problem. Same thing here.
Yes.
And then he showed up and he toured the prison. Same thing here. Kathy creates the problem and somebody dies. She shows up, acts like she doesn't run the whole thing, and then says a bunch of stuff that is not going to help.
Yes, yet again, she used this. This is to Mike's earlier point. She's using this to act like she's doing something. She's using this to act like she cares. She doesn't care. I want to be clear. Anyone who's out there listening who's going, no, Kathy Hochul cares. See, she does not. If she cared, she would actually try to fix it. She's not fixing it. She can't because she doesn't care. She doesn't care about family members. I will ask the question, where is the chat with the COs to make a better environment? Doesn't exist. Now, even the corrections officer union turned against them. Why? They don't want to take zeros again. And that's horrible. Yet again, about the money. Cuomo was terrible to that union. He literally said, you get nothing for 3 years until you allow me to punish you. I'm not joking. That's real. I talked about it in 2018. He said, I'll sign it when you agree that I can punish you. And they finally said, we surrender. You can punish us. That's what happened. And now Hochul's the same way. Your point is valid, Craig. This has been a problem for at least 10 years, if not 20 or 30. And we haven't fixed it. We're still not going to fix it. There's going to be more people who die in prison and more people take advantage of it. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. I just want to put a call out to any corrections officers out there. If you're listening to this, show all your friends that Larry Sharpe cares. And when taken from that prison, the corrections officers and the families both knew who he was. So, yep. I mean, if you're looking for somebody that cares, it's Larry Sharpe.
I appreciate that. Yes, it's true. And a lot of the corrections officers did know who I was because I was the only one talking about them. I visited Dannemora Prison. I visited Attica. I visited Auburn. Like, I went to these prisons and talked to the people. And I still do. Like, I still go out when I cross the state. I'll visit a prison. It does matter. So Melissa brings up a very important point. She says most COs often won't seek mental health counseling, also because of red flag laws. Yes, they'll lose their firearms. And if you're a CO who's been in with prisoners, and those prisoners who are violent get out, do you want to walk around without a firearm? Hadn't thought of that one, did you? Very true. My father had a firearm on him at all times when I was a kid. He used to have a ankle holster because we had bell bottoms back in the 70s and 80s. It was easy. Am I right? What do you think? Tell me. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Radio on the Voice of Liberty, 585-346-3000. Back with your calls and more via chat. I see you after the break.
And if there is a move to deport immigrants, I say then start with me.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest opening in your defenses to drain your accounts and steal sensitive data. Your finances and your customers' trust are on the line. Call the experts at Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call today. 585-999-TECH.
I'm Carmen Leonardo, licensed associate real estate broker with RE/MAX Realty Group. With so many realtor choices today, what sets Carmen Leonardo apart? It's the value I provide. With Carmen Leonardo, you get nearly 20 years of experience, a highly skilled negotiator, certified pricing strategy advisor, and seller representative specialist. Each client feels like they receive my undivided attention.
Hey, you're lighting up the phone lines. We've got David on the line. And then after David, we'll have Roger.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free.
You got it.
226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery in Avon.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop specializing in pre-owned firearms and repairs. Get your rifle, shotgun, or pistol serviced and tuned before you take it to the field. Open from 10 a.m. Tuesday through Saturday. Avon Gun, East Main Street, next to Tompkins Community Bank.
Merry
Christmas.
This is Fred Stryker Selber of Just an Old Guy with a Mic podcast, wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you for listening to Just an Old Guy with a Mic podcast.
Sharpe Radio on the WYSL stations.
COVID did not get into the nursing homes by people coming from hospitals. COVID got into the nursing homes by staff walking into the nursing home.
It's always somebody else's fault. Absolutely. Larry Sharpe here on the Voice of Liberty, Sharpe Way Radio. Happy that you're giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. I want to grab a quick comment. This is from, I hope I say it right, Shen Mu. Hope I said that right. Most prisoners are nonviolent drug offenders. A lot of them were harming themselves, not other people. People should have the right to alter their own minds with substances. I'm not against that at all. I agree. If you heard what I mentioned, 3 types of people in prison. Those who are bad people who should never get out, but will get out, but there are bad people. Those who made a mistake and should get a second chance at life. And those who shouldn't be in. I agree with you. The problem that we all have is, how do we know which one is which? That's the challenge. That's the hard part. And families, along with corrections officers, along with local people who want to help out in those community recidivism units we talked about, that's how we find out. How do I know that? It happened in Massachusetts. There's an example of that. So yes. All righty. Let me, if I could, grab a call. This is David. David, how are you?
Good. I'm just wondering why all this, the prisons that have been closed down hasn't come up in any of these conversations. They're overcrowding the prisons from what I understand. Possibly I'm wrong. But also by laxing the laws for people that should be in there that are out on the street, they're making our environment out here less safe.
Let me touch both of those, David. You are correct. The first piece where you're correct is they have been shutting down prisons. This goes back to what Craig said earlier in the show. Trying to save money, they've been shutting down prisons. That's one of the reasons why they've been letting people out. Not the reason, but many reasons why they've been letting people out, right? So you've now made things worse in a prison and things worse outside. Correct. But I have to go one step further. What people don't realize is you can't shut a prison down just because you want to shut a prison down. What I mean by that, when the lockdowns happened because of C-19, when that happened, a lot of people would stay home, don't come to work, whatever, work from home. You can't do that in the prison. So now you got COs who have an 8-hour shift, and half of the other COs are sick with C-19 or just sick or whatever. Well, they can't go home. They're now going to have to do a double shift. You're going to have to work 16 hours. There's no choice. You don't go, I'm going to walk away. They go, no, you're fired. You're going to work 16 hours. Done. I had plans. I have a family. I have responsibilities. Too bad, CO. You're staying. That happened multiple times. Well, here's the worst part. Now all the prisoners get it too. Everybody's getting sick, and you got to stay in there. How do you think that affected their environment? Not just that. You only get a stick, no carrot. So it's just, if you don't do well, we punish. If you do well, whatever you're supposed to. On top of that, the assumption is if the prisoner is hurt, the prisoner is correct and you are wrong. Now, that can be true. I don't want to say it isn't true, but it can be. But here goes to your other point. If you are a CO and it's 1 to 5 prisoners, okay, what happens when it's 1 to 10, 1 to 15? And out of those 10, 3 of them are never going to get out of jail or never going to have a life and don't care what you do to them at all. And they will stab you and they will punch you and they will beat you up. And now there's 15 of them to one of you. This is your point, David. As you close prisons, that ratio changes and they get bolder and the CEOs get scareder. And to your earlier point that Keith talked about, I'm sorry, not your point, Keith's point, when you take away some of the ability for them to do things, the only answer they have to survive in their minds is violence. Did I cover what we talked about, David?
Well, they've also taken and created this no bail.
We're going to have no time for Roger.
No, I get it. Look,
makes things out here worse for us.
Yes, agreed.
So basically, every time you look at these people, they're always making it easier for the criminal that are hired to make sure that
the problem that we have here is, David, I want to touch this piece. The problem we have is, as long as there's problems, we keep looking to the government to solve them. If they actually solve the problem, well, then why do we need them? That's the problem, my friend. Thank you for the call, David. I appreciate it. So let me grab a couple of comments, if I could. Gene says, the COs know what will be helpful for the inmates if they interact with them daily. Like when I told my middle son, it wasn't important what time he went to bed, as long as he got himself up for school in the morning. I never said to my eldest son. When he found that I'd said it to his brother, he said he'd never slept if I said that to him. I said, I know. That's kind of funny. But the concept is, I want both to be. I don't want only corrections officers in charge of this. I also want families. Nicholas says, I totally agree with the carrot and the stick approach. It also works for unruly children. Yes, right? It's carrot and stick. Not just carrot, not just stick. Both, absolutely. Dave says, don't forget states closing down mental hospitals. Yeah. Yes. What we haven't figured out, and we don't get, is that the largest mental health facilities in the state are our prisons and our jails. That is a problem. That's the biggest issue, right? We know for sure that there are literally thousands of prisoners who have mental issues. They're all getting drugs, right? And by the way, this is going to sound crazy, but the second most popular way that they die, not natural causes, is not suicide. It's drug and alcohol overdose. In prison. That's the second highest reason why they die across the country. So clearly they're still getting it, right? It's still happening either way. That's the piece that drives me crazy. It's still a problem, has been a problem, will always be a problem until we do. Was that what you just said? We deal with the mental crisis and use a carrot and a stick. Why can't we? As I said, we could have our community rehabilitation units. That's one, the CRU, the crews. Why can't we also then create mental facilities there too? This is repairable. We won't repair it. We don't want to repair it. We want to worship our government and worship our queen, but there are answers. And someone does care. That guy's Larry Sharpe. Thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I will see you all very soon.
Okay, have a